Feraligatr is an incredibly sick off-meta deck. It actually managed to win the Fukuoka Champions League at the start of the format and then completely disappeared. Not a single Gator made day 2 at Atlanta or Monterey regionals. But wait, don't click off just yet. I genuinely think this deck still has legs and I want to prove it. I've cooked up 2 different versions of the deck and I'll be taking each of them to a local tournament with real championship points on the line. Although, I'll be honest, those don't really matter for me anymore. But first, what's the deck actually trying to do? The whole strategy revolves around using Relicanth's Memory Dive ability to give Feraligatr access to its pre-evolution's utility attacks. Totodile has Big Bite, 10 damage for a single water energy, and it prevents the opposing Pokemon from retreating. This is perfect for trapping non-attacking support Pokemon in the active, buying you time to set up, or just locking your opponent out of the game. Croconaw has Reverse Thrust, a 30 damage hit and run that allows you to retreat into one of your benched Pokemon, usually a defensive option like Mimikyu, keeping your Gator safe and forcing your opponent to break through the wall. Then there's Feraligatr itself, packing the hard-hitting option of Giant Wave, dealing 160 damage for 2 water energy. But the real spice of this card is the Torrential Heart ability. At the cost of 50 self-damage, Feraligatr's next attack will deal 120 bonus damage. That is so much for a single prizer. And the self-damage isn't even a real cost, it's actually a core part of the strategy. Since with Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain ability, you'll be able to migrate that damage straight over to your opponent's board. When you've got the full combo set up, it's basically a better Dragapult Phantom Dive on a 1 prizer. Absolutely insane. Alright, now let's talk deck lists. I'll start with the core cards that are shared across both versions, then get into the key differences. And spoilers, neither of them have Milotic EX. I just think that card is really fake at the moment, with almost every Dragapult player including Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as an answer. For our Pokemon, we've got the main attacking line of 4 Totodile, 3 Croconaw, and 3 Feraligatr. 3 Monkey Dory for that incredible Adrenabrain damage manipulation, 2 Relicanth for its unique Memory Dive ability, and 2 Mimikyu to wall out our opponents with Safeguard. Our supporter lineup has 4 Arven for Search, 4 Iono for consistency and hand disruption, 3 Lana's Aid for recycling Pokemon and basic energy, 1 Professor's Research for a little bit of extra draw, 1 Crispin in case we need to accelerate an extra energy. We'll be finding all of these with our maxed out count of 4 Pokegear. The rest of the trainers include 3 Countercatcher for enabling Big Bite trapping plays, 1 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 1 Ultra Ball, 1 Night Stretcher, and 1 Earthen Vessel, as well as 2 Artisan for some basic Pokemon search and consistency, 2 Luxurious Cape to keep our fellows alive, and 1 Rescue Board for free retreat. To power up our Pokemon, we've got 4 Water, 3 Dark, and 2 Luminous Energy. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned the A-Spec yet. That's because this is the biggest difference between the 2 lists. First up, we've got the Precious Trolley build. This gives us the option to fully fill out our bench with a single item that is searchable off of Arven. It's got 2 Technical Machine evolutions so that we can accelerate our Gators, and a couple of flexible spots that I've dedicated to a Boss's Orders and a Badoo. They each have a couple of niche use cases in the deck, but aren't 100% necessary. The other variant that I've cooked up focuses on the very spicy A-Spec Grand Tree. This incredible stadium allows us to evolve a Totodile into a Croconaw from the deck, and then again into Feraligatr on the same turn. This is a great way to instantly spawn in Stage 2 Pokemon, since unlike other decks, we can't make use of Rare Candy. Skipping the Stage 1 Croconaw would also mean skipping out on the Reverse Thrust attack, so it's really not an option. We've got 3 Chorus's Tenacity to search it out, which can also be used to find Artisan if we need more basic Pokemon in the early game, and a second Buddy Buddy Poffin. One just isn't enough if we're not playing Precious Trolley. Comment down below which list you prefer and which one you think I'm going to do better with at these tournaments. First up, I'll be playing the Precious Trolley build. It's a 24-person best of 1 league challenge at the wonderful Maze of Fitzroy. Let's get into it. Round 1, I'm up against a Terrorbox. I mulligan twice, which is particularly bad when their setup is already looking that good. They're going to be able to piece together some insane combos on the next turn. Over on my side, I've got a completely dead hand, but a Pokegear off the top keeps me in it. I play an Earthen Vessel to grab a couple energies and thin out the deck, and then just pray that the gear finds me anything in the top 7 cards. I hit Arven and I'm right back into this game, searching out Precious Trolley and Technical Machine Evolution. I make a bit of a mistake here though. I focus on accelerating the board with TM Evo, but given my opponent's hand size, this can all be be completely undone with a combination of Boss's Orders and Wellspring Ogerpon's Torrential Pump. It definitely would have been safer to just focus on Badoo's Itchy Pollen to lock them out of items and aim to use Big Bite for retreat locking, since that is my primary win condition in the matchup, and I really don't need to evolve Totodiles anytime soon for that. I get punished for my greedy play, losing both of my Crocs on the next turn. After copping another Torrential Pump that set my opponent down to just 3 cards remaining, I am finally able to get the first Big Bite of the game. They play an Ultra Ball, and I'm expecting to see Noctowl for either Professor Turo scenario or Switch. But they actually grab Mew EX. This means that they either have no outs to the lock, or their only answer is sitting in the prize cards. For now, the best they can do is boss up my Relicanth and pass. But I don't have any way to retreat it. All I'd need is an energy or rescue board, or a supporter like Arven or Lana's Aid to get one, or even Iono, Professor's Research, or Pokegear to at least have a chance at seeing an out. But I've got nothing and just have to pass it back, freeing up the Noctowl to retreat into an attacker. Of course, I get Torrential Pumped again, and now my only option is to go for one last Big Bite retreat lock. They've got Professor Turo's scenario and win the game. I was right about it being prized before though, so all I needed was a way to get Relicanth out of the active and I would have stolen this game. I'm still confident I can win out though. I mean, would there really be this much video left if the deck didn't work? Round 2, and I'm versing the #1 deck in the meta, Dragapult. I have to go first, but Raw Open Precious Trolley. Absolutely disgusting. However, I don't have anything else going on in my hand, so I preemptively play a Pokegear grabbing Iono. Normally, you wouldn't want to do this if you aren't going to immediately play that supporter. But in this case, I've got nothing to do next turn, so it's a bit of insurance against Badoo's Itchy Pollen. And that's exactly what they go for. Without any items, all I can do is drop that Iono and TM Evo into a couple of Croconaws, but this is fine. He proceeds to set up a strong board, evolving into a couple of Dracloaks and a Dusclops, then item locking me again. Normally, I wouldn't want to go ahead and prize with this deck, but for this specific matchup, if we both continue to play passive, eventually they'll set up a ridiculous board and wipe out my key pieces in a single turn. So I decide to take the initiative, moving 20 damage off of my Badoo onto his Badoo with Munkidori's Adrenabrain, finishing it off with Itchy Pollen. Now, without any Badoo in play, he just promotes Duskull and still under item lock isn't able to piece together a Dragapult attack. But now I have access to items. I set up both of my Feraligatrs and attach a Luxurious Cape onto each of them. A key way that you can lose this matchup is if the Dragapult player builds up multiple Dusknoirs and simultaneously removes both of your Feraligatrs. Attaching 2 capes makes this almost impossible to do in a single turn, and while it does leave your monkeys vulnerable, they are much easier to re-establish. I use one Torrential Heart ability, and then thanks to the double Munkidori, move all 50 damage over to Duskull, finishing it off with some Itchy Pollen. I intentionally don't use the other Feraligator's ability because I don't want to put any unnecessary damage on my board. It could leave me more vulnerable to a potential Phantom Dive. He does manage to set up and wipe both of my monkeys, but now that Dragapult's in play, I care a lot less about item lock and can start doing some serious damage. I'm not able to get the monkeys back just yet, but I hit and run for 150 damage, shoving up a Mimikyu, which should be pretty annoying. They'll be forced to gust around at each turn to make any real progress. And he's not able to deal with it, having to retreat into Badoo. The 10 damage from Itchy Pollen will be enough that Mimikyu can be finished off by Phantom Dive later though. Still lacking any monkeys, I opt not to add any unnecessary damage to my board, just retreating into Feraligatr and using Reverse Thrust without boosting the damage. The 30 is still enough to handle Badoo though. He still can't find a way around Mimikyu and settles for 60 damage on my Gator. Now finally out of item lock, I can re-establish a Munkidori using Night Stretcher and Earthen Vessel. And despite easily being able to, I choose not to take the KO on his active Dragapult, leaving it at just 20 HP remaining. I do this because going down to a single prize card would not only invalidate my counter catcher, but also leave me susceptible to bricking off of Iono. On top of this, I make sure to heal 10 off of Mimikyu so that it's safe from Phantom Dive's spread damage. But over on his side, a surprise Hawlucha puts it right back into range, plus a counter catcher to bring up and remove Munkidori, which I 100% need for finishing off the damaged Dragapult. This is really risky though, because now he's ahead in prizes at 2-3. I thin out my deck with Artisan, following it up with a Pokegear, which grabs me Lana's Aid. Now I can just counter catcher up any of his small one prize fellas, play Lana's Aid for Munkidori and a Dark Energy, move 30 damage to finish off the Dragapult that we set up before for 2 prizes, and use any of Feraligatr's attack to take the final prize and win the game. That was a close one, but I managed to pull through in the end. Round 3, I've got to beat a Ceruledge. This matchup should be extremely free. Not only are they lacking answers to get through a Mimikyu wall, but on top of that, Ceruledge EX is weak to water. So I'm going to have no trouble taking 2 prizes with a boosted reverse thrust for 300 damage. He opts to go first and sets up a pretty strong board. My Pokegear whiffs on Arven, which would have been the ideal opener, but I'll take a Professor's Research for 7 new cards. I managed to just raw draw into all of the basics that I need anyway. It's still not as good as Precious Trolley, but at least I'm set up. He easily takes the KO on my active Relicanth, but now I can promote Mimikyu, which is going to be tough to beat through. And I've got Arven for TM Evo and Earthen Vessel, targeting my 2 bench Totodiles with Evolution. But I only grab out 1 Croconaw, and there aren't any in my hand or in my discard. Yep, there are 2 hiding in the prizes. So despite my strong initial setup, I am in serious danger if he ever targets it with Boss's Orders. Since I've only got access to 1 Croconaw, it's going to be really painful to try and build back up to another Gator. Fortunately, the Mimikyu wall holds strong, and he just has to attack for 0 damage. Although he is building up a Monkey Dory on the bench with Luminous Energy as an eventual answer to the fake Pikachu. I evolve into Feraligatr and one-shot the active Cerulege with a 300 damage reverse thrust, retreating right back into Mimikyu. But I don't find any Crocs off of those 2 prizes, so I'm still not out of the woods yet. Luckily, his only option against Mimikyu right now is to deal 10 damage with Badoo. I use Adrenabrain, moving 30 damage off of my Gator, taking the KO, and finally unlock a second Croc. Then I follow up with another KO, using the classic hit and run right back into Mimikyu. Now with my second Croc in play, the game is essentially locked up. He finally breaks through the Mimikyu wall using Monkey Dory's Mind Bend, but I just knock it out and retreat into another Mimikyu. And now I just have to wait for him to pass it back so I can win the game. Those last 2 games did a much better job of showcasing the deck's potential. Unfortunately, this next one isn't a great watch. I had to spend a lot of the early game just announcing Itchy Pollen and waiting until I drew anything. Plus, I think my opponent was kinda new, so I spent a bit too much time explaining what my cards are actually doing. Also, he just walked off to take a phone call at one point. Anyway, I probably should have been paying more attention to the clock, because even after I did get my setup going, we still managed to end with a tie. However, I had a 2-prize lead, and the final board state looked like this. I was just 20 damage short of winning the game, so I'm gonna let you have a guess at how things might have ended up if I had one more turn. Last round of the tournament, and trust me, this one is way more interesting. Let's try and end on a win. I'm against Terrabox again, but this time they don't have such a broken start. Over on my side, I've got a bunch of basics in hand, which is nice, but absolutely no follow-up. Just an Itchy Pollen for 10. Despite this, she has to play Iono to get anything going herself, which is great for me, ending the turn off with a Sob for 20 and an Ogerpon that's just 1 energy away from Torrential Pump. Just in case she can't find the water energy, I don't want my Badoo dying to another Sob, so I search out a Dark Energy for Monkey Dory and move that 20 damage right back onto Ogerpon, evolving into a Croconaw and attaching Luxurious Cape to keep it safe from the potential Torrential Pump snipe. Then I end my turn with an Itchy Pollen to keep up the item lock. Lucky that I did attach the Cape because she finds a water energy and easily takes 2 prizes, deleting my Badoo and Monkey Dory. I still don't have heaps going on though, so I just attach a water energy and a TM Evo to Mimikyu and evolve into Feraligatr and a Croconaw, ensuring that both have a Luxurious Cape attached to keep them safe, and pray that Mimikyu's Safeguard ability will burn through some of her resources. She can't get around it and has to use an Energy Switch and a Crispin to only take a KO on my benched Relicanth. I may be down 3 prizes, but my board is finally looking solid. I set 180 damage onto Wellspring Ogerpon and retreat back into Mimikyu. She responds with Boss's Orders for a 2-prize turn, getting rid of both Relicanth and my Monkey Dory. I'm now down 6 prizes to 1, but this deck is incredible at making comebacks. I take 2 prizes on the Wellspring Ogerpon using Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain just to see the additional prize cards before I make any other decisions. Then she promotes the Teal Mask Ogerpon. Perfect. I bench another Relicanth and I Iono her down to a single card, ending my turn with a big bite for 130 damage. She is going to need a lot to get out of this position and only has 2 cards to do it. She's unable to break the retreat lock and just has to pass it back. I'm able to establish the double Monkey Dory Dream, healing up my Gator and then using Big Bite for only 10 damage, intentionally keeping her Teal Mask Ogerpon alive and trapped in the active with only 10 HP remaining. The final top deck doesn't save her, and a combination of Adrenabrain to finish off Teal Mask Ogerpon and Boss's Orders into a boosted Giant Wave on the Terrapagos is enough to complete my insane 6-prize comeback. I finish off this league challenge with a final record of 3 wins, 1 loss and 1 tie, just bubbling out of top 4 but still getting a kiss from the very handsome judge. This wasn't a bad result, but my goal was to get a win. So the next day I hit up another tournament. Here the matches were going to be best of 3s but with only 3 rounds total. And this time I was swapping it up, now playing the Grand Tree variant of the deck. let's see how it went. In the first round, I'm up against the Archaladon Poison Donk deck, and right off the bat, I'm immediately in danger, going second with no basics other than my active Totodile. All he needs is to see Ancient Booster Energy Capsule off of this Squawkabilly and he'll win game 1 before I even take a turn. But fortunately, I've got a bit of plot armor and he whiffs. This is even better since he burnt through so many resources trying to reach the donk. I've got Termon Arven, but remember, this build doesn't have Precious Trolley or TM Evo. So I just take a Buddy Buddy Poffin and a Luxurious Cape, retreating into a very healthy Mimikyu. Unfortunately, this very healthy Mimikyu is weak to metal. Duraludon's Binding Mochi boosted Hammer In will deal 140 total damage. Then the additional 30 from Poison will reach Mimikyu's 170 HP. However, since it wasn't damage from an attack that knocked out Mimikyu, my opponent won't get the extra prize from Luxurious Cape. Now I can do something that the trolley build can't do: get aggressive. I use Chorus's Tenacity to search out Grand Tree and Luminous Energy, immediately evolving my Totodile into Croconaw, and then again into Feraligatr. Reverse Thrust is enough to take the KO on Duraludon, keeping my Feraligatr safe on the bench. And remember how they dumped all those resources at the start while desperately digging for the donk? Well, now they can't even get off a proper attack, just poisoning Relicanth for 60 damage with Petron. Grand Tree sticks in play, so the first thing I do is evolve up another Feraligatr. Now my board is looking incredible, and then I just take another hit and run KO. It's actually annoying being this far ahead because I have all these counter catches that I want to use. Anyway, I snowball the game from here, being able to play even more aggressively with a second fully powered up Gator in the back, going down to a single prize and checkmating the board. I have to go second again, but this time I'm able to start with 2 Totodiles, so at least if they piece together the poison combo, I won't immediately lose the game. But luckily for me, they whiff it again anyway. My opponent's only got 4 cards in hand, so I really don't want to give him Iono yet. Instead, I play Chorus's Tenacity to search out Grand Tree and a Water Energy, but I can't actually use the tree yet, so I just hold on to it and hope they don't Iono it away. My call was right, and their hand has nothing going on. I drop Grand Tree, evolving straight into Feraligatr, bench a Relicanth, and then play Iono. This has the potential to backfire, and I probably could have left them stranded with a bricked hand for a few more turns, but I want to make things happen. Unfortunately, my new hand has no energy, so I can't actually attack yet, and have to end my turn by attaching Luxurious Cape to keep Feraligatr safe. Somehow he still can't do heaps, shoving Petron active for 60 poison damage. Grand Tree remains in play, so I get another fully set up Feraligatr, and at this point I can take the first KO and the game is close to locked up. There are a few signs of life on the next turn when he's able to establish Archaladon EX and gust up my Gator, but I have one final play to put the nail in the coffin. I reverse thrust into Mimikyu, and with the way his board is set up, assuming he can't find Professor Turo's scenario, the only real way to deal with Mimikyu is to hard retreat into Duraludon. This will easily get the KO thanks to 60 damage from Hammer In after weakness and the additional 10 from poison. But this play requires committing his hand attached to Duraludon and burning 2 energy off of Archaladon EX to retreat. I'll be able to KO the active Duraludon, and with no others in play, he'll have no way to accelerate energy and won't be able to make a meaningful attack on the next turn. This is exactly what happens, and he's stuck going for a desperation 60 damage motivate with Squawkabilly EX. I easily KO the Billy and end the game on the next turn with a Giant Wave plus Adrenabrain for 310 damage. Round 2, and I pair an N Zoroark deck. I have to go first, which already isn't great. Then I feed my opponent 2 mulligans, and when I finally do find a basic Pokemon, the rest of my hand is completely dead. All I can do is stare at my active Munkidori and pass the turn. He Ionos me into a fresh hand, which does have a Buddy Buddy Poffin, but Badoo is about to item lock me. On the bright side, it does seem like he's struggling with energy, having to attach a Reversal Energy onto Pheasantipity just to be able to retreat it. All I can do is attach a Luminous Energy onto Munkidori and pray that he doesn't donk me. Despite continuing to develop his board, there is somehow still no energy in play, and I'm starting to notice a potential weakness that I really want to exploit. His board consists of Badoo, Reshiram, Petron EX, Pheasantipity EX, Zoroark EX, and Zorua. All I need to do is find Mimikyu, and that should almost definitely lock him out of the game. But I'm gonna have to survive another turn with just my Munkidori and a Dream. Attaching a Dark Energy, but choosing not to attack since it would unlock his board and enable Flip the Script, which would absolutely lose me the game. He plays Iono in a final attempt to find some energy and ends PP up, but he whiffs, and that is gonna cost him the game. I draw into Artisan and immediately bench Mimikyu. He picks it up to triple check its safeguard ability, and yep, he is indeed cooked. I retreat into it, and functionally, this is the end of the game. We play it out for a bit longer, but once I have 2 Gators and 2 Monkeys set up and am moving 60 damage a turn while still walling him out with Mimikyu, he scoops it up. Game 2, I open Mimikyu, which is met by a sigh from my opponent. This time, he tries to set up his own Monkey Dory and an End Darmanitan, but I know that the only way to power this up is through reversal energy. So all I need to do is stay behind in prizes and make sure that I never have energy in the discard to avoid backdrafts dealing any damage. He does take a couple prizes by using boss's orders and sniping my benched Pokemon, but it isn't long before I have a checkmate board state established. A powered up Mimikyu in the active, walling him and dealing 70 damage a turn, 2 Monkey Dory that can heal any damage that he does manage to do, as well as a Feraligatr just to accelerate the game a bit. It's important to note that I choose not to bench any more Pokemon, so that even if he does find enough boss's orders and energy to KO everything, he will still always have to somehow make it through the final boss Mimikyu to actually win the game. I just need to make sure that I spread my damage in such a way that I never have to take a prize lead, and he eventually scoops it up. Now I've just got to get one more win for that tournament dub, and I'll be facing a Charizard Terrapagos deck. He wins the coin flip and goes first, having an insane opener. Over on my side, I've got Artisan for Totodile, Hand Attach, and Professor's Research to draw 7 cards that I cannot play any of this turn. Fortunately, he just KOs my active Relicanth, notably choosing to power up Terrapagos EX, leaving Charizard without any energy on it. Thanks to Grand Tree, I evolve into Feraligatr, and after an Iono, I'm able to set up the rest of my board, bringing up Charizard with Counter Catcher and reverse thrusting into Mimikyu. Obviously, with Pidgeot EX in play, he'll be able to find some way to power up or retreat Charizard, but it'll put some pressure on his resources and ideally block him from quick searching for something more impactful. He has to use Kieran as his supporter for turn to get out of the active, and actually isn't able to attack through Mimikyu, buying me a turn. And with Grand Tree still in play, I'm able to immediately evolve up a second Feraligatr, then hit and run back into Mimikyu for another 150 damage. He bosses up my damaged Feraligatr, but it's fine. Thanks to my double dipping on Grand Tree, I can afford to lose one and easily take the return KO on Terrapagos. Finally bumping the Grand Tree before I can get a potential third use out of it, he sets up some more Hoot Hoots and a very threatening Duskull, proceeding to break through my Mimikyu wall with Fan Rotom's Assault Landing. I'm not able to find another Croconaw to evolve into just yet, so I'm really worried about losing my only Feraligatr to Dusknoir. Because of this, I just heal 30 damage off it with Monkey Dory and use an unboosted Reverse Thrust to leave Fan Rotom with 10 HP and my own Feraligatr out of Curse Blast range. He does end up popping the Noir, but on my active Relicanth, leaving him with 2 prizes to my 3. Then I choose to promote Totodile, which was probably a bit of a misplay. I could have promoted Monkey Dory, which Fan Rotom can't deal with. This would have forced him to evolve and then retreat into a full HP Charizard for the KO. Then I would have just had game by moving 10 damage onto Fan Rotom and counter catching up the Charizard that already had 180 damage on it. But I didn't really consider the possibility of him just not having the second Charizard, which was absolutely worth checking for. Instead, I tried to end the game a bit quicker, ensuring that he would 100% take the KO on my Totodile. Because I'm letting him go down to a single prize, I can now KO the Fan Rotom with Monkey Dory and still be behind to use Counter Catcher. This is important because I know that I have an Arven in the prizes, so even if my Pokegear whiffs, I'll have a 1 in 3 chance of taking it off my next prize to win anyway. My Pokegear does actually whiff, so I try my luck on the prize cards. It's Luminous Energy, which is nice, but it's not going to win me the game this turn. I play Iono, putting him down to a single card and giving me 2 chances to draw into Counter Catcher. Unfortunately, I don't, and I've already taken a KO, so Pheasandipity's Flip the Script is now online. My best bet is to hit and run back into Mimikyu one last time and just hope he doesn't have it. All of his win conditions require at least 2 cards, so even though he has Quick Search, there's a slim chance I can win this. He'd need either Fire Energy and Fan Rotom to break through my Mimikyu, or Fire Energy and Boss's Orders to take his last prize on one of my benched Pokemon with Charizard. Even after Flip the Script, apparently there is somehow nothing going on in that 5-card hand. And on top of that, he's completely out of Noctowls, unable to evolve the benched Hoot Hoot out of range, so I can just win the next turn. I definitely got bailed out by some luck at the end there, and I'm sure that I could have played a lot better, but a win's a win, so I'll take it. Also, I think that the store might have cooked something with the timers, or potentially started them as soon as round pairings went up, because my recording says that game 1 only took about 30 minutes, which is long, but when we were setting up for game 2, they call out that there's only 10 minutes left in the round. This deck is not aggressive enough to win that quickly, so I think I'm going to have to go for some big bites. This isn't all that bad though. Last game I picked up that his A-Spec was Maximum Belt, so his only switch out is Kieran. He starts game 2 off really strong with a turn 2 Rare Candy Pidgeot Pidgeot, Rare Candy Charizard. But this does require the use of Noctowl, the perfect trapping target. However, right now, my hand doesn't have the resources to chain back-to-back counter catches, and I know he still has access to Kieran. Instead, I go for a luxurious Cape Mimikyu play to buy some time, since I have Lana's Aid in hand to recycle it if I have to. Needing to retreat into Fan Rotom to break through my Mimikyu wall, he actually commits the Kieran now to conserve Terrapagos' energy, blowing up a Dusknoir and then finishing it off with Assault Landing for 2 prizes. Pokegear finds me Arven, but with no water energy in hand, I can't use Big Bite just yet. I opt to retrieve Mimikyu and a couple of water energy with Lana's Aid and then promote Munkidori since Fan Rotom can't deal with it. Not wanting to burn through any more precious energy, my opponent gusts up Mimikyu and KOs her, while also setting up another Duskull on bench. Now I can finally start the lock. I Arven for Counter Catcher to bring up Noctowl and Big Bite it for 10, knowing that he can't retreat. Time gets called, but with a second Noctowl in play, I'm pretty sure that I could stall this for at least 18 more turns if I really needed to. And by then, I'd be set up enough to win the game through Munkidori's spread damage anyway. He blows up Dusknoir to go down to his final prize, but that was the 4th rare candy, and I'm pretty content to just sit here and keep biting the owl, winning me the set. And there you have it, 3 wins, no losses. Turns out I can in fact win a tournament with Feraligatr. I already know that you're going to comment about how this was only 10 people, so it wasn't incredibly difficult. Please, drop that comment anyway, it helps the algorithm. But let's just say this isn't anywhere near the biggest tournament that Feraligatr is going to win this format, and I may have a few other motivators for why I'm making this video. I've got something cooking up that I am sure you're going to love. Get keen for it.